I used to feel like I would get downloads all the time and felt so connected to God. And I'd go on a run and just be like, oh, I got these 5 ideas and I know who I'm going to talk to. And I did this thing and miracles are happening. There was none of that. So I felt so deserted. And little did I know that like, that's a part of it, because you need to be so flipped on your head. Like in order to become the next version of you, you have to surrender.
Lori, this is such a, do people say that to you all the time? They're like, this is like a manifestation for me.
Not all the time, but when I have heard it, I feel like, well, this is a manifestation for me too. Like it really is, to be with someone that I admire and get to be on your podcast. Like truly, we both manifested this together.
Oh, I'm just so honored. I was laughing today when I walked into your beautiful home and I was like, Lori, I'm like, seeing you IRL is such a vibe, because I just swoon over you and you inspire me and expand me so much. So it's fun, when you get to see someone that you admire in the flesh and you're like, wait, is this like happening right now?
It's happening.
It's converging.
I love it. I love it so much. And I feel like we've gotten to see each other a lot in passing, but very quickly.
Yes.
But one thing about you that I absolutely love is that this is just like energy, recognizing energy. I just love that the second I get to like even stand in front of you, even if it's really quick at an event, I'm like, oh, that feels like home. Like it just feels very comfortable. So, and I'm not like that I'm one of those people who's super sensitive to a point where it actually bugs me. Because there's nothing wrong with the people who can make me anxious. And I don't know what that is, but maybe we'll dive deep into it. I don't know.
Maybe, who knows? I feel like I've got some really like exciting questions. And at the same time, I'm like, I feel like your Sag energy and my Aries Sag energy.
We don't know where this is going to end up.
Yeah.
We're going to burn something down. It's going to be great.
But I also really know one thing about this conversation that I'm just so excited to share with my women about you is how freaking resilient you are and how wise you are. And you to me are just like, and I also know your astrology, so we're going to talk about that, but it's like you are just the definition for me of an entrepreneur, but you also do it with such beautiful poise and grace and like connected to like your heart and your feminine. And it's just like, that's for me, at least in what I see in the world and online, it's so rare. And then I just think a lot of my community looks for that. And for someone who's like at your level to still hold that essence is really big.
Well, I'm actually excited for you to ask questions around that so I can learn that maybe I didn't know I was doing that. So
that's how I perceive you. You're like, okay, I'm here for it.
I'm like, I love everything you just said and I didn't know that. So,
okay. So first things first, you have had Earn Your Happy for 8 years and it's one of the top podcasts, 65 million downloads. How have you stayed consistent and inspired building a show like yours, even when maybe you're not motivated or you're going through a lull?
This is such a good question, because whenever you're choosing to do anything, you have to look at what you're choosing, not for the initial outcome that you necessarily think that you want. Let me explain that. So at the time when I wanted to do a podcast, there weren't a lot of podcasts that I knew about that women were doing. The podcast that I was listening to actually was Lewis Howes on repeat. And it was like my lifeline to kind of like the entrepreneurship world and really learning about just everything that I wanted to be doing. I wanted to be writing a book. I wanted to be doing events and courses, but like on a bigger scale. And so I really wanted to get into the podcast game as well for so many different reasons. And I think that the outcome of what I wanted from a podcast was obviously like a more exposure, a bigger audience, networking. I knew that there were so many layers to how that would be beneficial. But when you back up and you start your podcast, you're sitting in a room of one. You're sitting alone,
talking to yourself,
feeling so stupid, saying, I have nothing important to say. And so what happens is that right away, you're going to get confronted with just like challenges. The second that you start something that you want to do, doesn't matter if it's podcast or writing a book, you're going to be so confronted with like, oh, this is the reality of the work. It really sucks. And then what I had to learn to attach into was the person that I get to become in the process. And so everything that I have ever done, I've had to get excited about the end result that I think that I want and that could come from it. But you have to actually back up into remembering what opportunity, kind of like what school this is offering you. And so, people go to college all the time to get what they, whatever, maybe it's a degree, whatever degree, and they think that degree is going to do for them. And you have to go into a podcast, into a course, into an event, into writing a book, knowing that it's about the journey of who you become in that process and the school that it's offering you. So I knew that a podcast was offering me this next level opportunity to ask people who are outside of my realm or like levels above me to come on my show. And that was also going to give me the opportunity to face a lot of anxiety, a lot of nerves. Can I hold space for them? Can I prep enough and stay linear enough, which is challenging for me to lead this conversation with someone who feels like such bigger energy, who's further down the road than me. Like the opportunities with a podcast were never ending. And I think that sometimes we even choose something too small that doesn't give us a big enough opportunity, and we lose like attention and attachment to it because it's not like a big enough opportunity. And so the podcast to me, it is still an eternal, never ending opportunity. Like this opportunity with you, and I'm about to interview you after this for my show, like that, it still stretches me. It's still like, how can I hold space for this person? How can I grow? How can I learn from them? So I think that whenever I get annoyed or meaning like, oh God, I have to do another episode or I'm not feeling it. Because let me tell you, in now the 8 years that I've had it, there are so many days I'm not feeling it. And honestly, like I was so excited for, I had two incredible interviews today, but my energy wasn't there yet this morning. And I was like, oh my God, you don't get to pick how you wake up, but you get to pick how you respond to like how you feel. And I think when you're thinking of what you're choosing in your motivation, it's like everything is school and how you're going to show up to it. So that's how I stay motivated is like, okay, if I want to be that woman, if I want to be that podcast host, if I want to have, those relationships in my life, like who do I have to be to do that? And I just endlessly, the things that I've chosen give me those opportunities. Otherwise you're going to quit. You're going to quit. Oh my gosh.
And I just think like that, for lack of a better word, but like that marriage to the process is so unbelievably important. And here's what I think is so interesting about your astrology. And can I say who you just interviewed? Because it's one of my besties. You just had Krista on. And it's interesting because you have a Sag moon. I have a Sag moon. Krista has a Sagittarius moon. One of my best friends who's in this space as well, Gala, she's a Sagittarius moon. So there's just this inquisitiveness. And I just think it's so wild. Like when I saw today that you have a Sagittarius moon, I was like, oh my God. I'm like, it's just uncanny. But to be able to grow something, I just love how you're really, really reminding us how important that is, that you need to love the process and also be devoted to the person that you're becoming within the process. Have you ever read 10X is easier than 2X? Did you finish it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just reading it now because I feel like some of what you're bringing forward reminds me of that a little bit.
I love that. I mean, I love that book. I think I've read it 3 times.
Really? What do you feel like is like a powerful takeaway that you
honestly
have from that?
I could probably just read the very first, I think it's like the first 4 chapters, if I'm being honest.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, just repeat. Yeah.
That's how I
know
am,
that. Know that the meat of what you're going to get out of the book is probably at the beginning of the book. But that's just my personal experience. So someone else might get a lot more out of it. But what I got out of that book is the ability of how you perceive things is also going to be like really what your result is going to be and what you think is possible, So if I'm asking a better, bigger question, it reminded me of, Chris and I in our entrepreneurial journey and like our financial journey, him and I, if you looked at our timeline, like took such a massive leap in 1 year that if we looked at it now, it would just be like, how did that even happen? That you went from below zero, we were around $300,000 in debt, to over $1 million in about 13 months. Now, neither of us had ever thought of making $1 million in a year, nor did we think it was possible. And we lived in the Midwest at the time. You know, I think I was 30 or 31 when that happened. And this was a while ago now too.
Yes.
This is like 13 years ago.
Yeah.
So when you think of where the world was at 13 years ago, and for somebody to hop like that, we were just starting to really understand like the online space and all of that stuff at that time. So to take a big leap like that was pretty exponential for that time. And so when I look at that particular leap, what ended up happening is we started asking ourselves a different question. We started saying something different to ourselves. So instead of saying, how do we get out of debt? We literally said, how do we become bigger than this problem to never have this problem again? And that made us be like, oh, we wouldn't just be asking, well, I'll get 2 jobs, you get 2 jobs, we'll work, we'll pay this off. It was like, what is like in our realm that we could start to look at that could potentially get us so far out of this? It's like just a memory, and we never are these people who are ever in this situation again. And what happens when you start asking that question too, you start seeing opportunities that weren't there, and you don't even see what you would have solved the problem with prior to this. Like it wasn't we started to say, this is not we both get double jobs type of problem we're trying to solve. This is like we don't even know the people yet who we need to ask this question to. So how can we get in the rooms with the people who could even understand a question like this? Like it just made us look at our life like, we don't even have access yet to the people who could answer this. So how do we even get access to people who could show us this or start listening and learning from them?
Yeah. I feel like something I always witness about you as an expander for me, and just someone who's very inspiring for me, is I feel like you hold an identity that is like very, very powerful. Have you always has that just kind of been part of your makeup, or do you feel like you've been very intentional about the identities that you create for yourself and the expansions that you cultivate?
I love that you said that, just because it's reflecting back a time where I've known for a long time that I could be very powerful. Like I feel that, but it was only in my head. It was not in my reality. It truly was not in my reality. Like if you would have asked somebody even 10 years ago, like I remember my fitness coach was like, you're so shy. You're so shy. And I'm like, I'm so not shy. It just is. That was my mom, when I was younger, she had a lot of anxiety growing up. And so I think that sometimes what can happen, you know, maybe as parents, I've done a lot of coaching and therapy around this, but she kind of put that on me by noticing little things and saying, oh, you're like me, you have anxiety, or, oh, you're shy like me. Oh, you're just like your mom. And I think that can feel really comforting to a family member or a parent. Doesn't matter if it's your mom or whatever that is. And so I remember being younger and I was super outgoing up until about 12 or 13, like so outgoing. I'd turn on the camcorder in front of my family and like record dancing and singing. And I used to write, I would go in my bedroom and I would write fake personal ads to come out and read them and perform them like to anyone who would listen to me. And so like I was not shy. I love to read out loud. I love to, you know, like I said, dance, perform, all of the things like in the front yard, like make people sit and watch me. And at that age where my mom started to, what happened is she had my brother I was almost 14 years old. She got postpartum depression pretty bad. And from there, she got a lot of anxiety. And that was when that whole conversation started coming up. And like things I'd never really noticed or heard her say, it was like, oh, you're like me. Oh, you're nervous. Oh, this is what's happening. Or you might be having a panic attack or whatever that looked like. And all of a sudden, that was the first year I had a panic attack. Like,
wow.
I was reading out loud in middle school. I ended up homeschooling through high school, but it was in 6th grade. And I remember reading out loud to the class. And all of a sudden I was like, what is this? I started thinking, am I nervous? Like, oh, is this nerves? And I literally like induced a panic attack. So it went overnight from not having it to fully having them, to the point where any sort of negative or any sort of attention on me created like a negative feeling in my body. And so like the opposite of powerful feeling is what started from that age until literally like late 20s. I had to learn how to like embrace this fight of knowing that I like really wanted to do something big in the world and that I had a powerful presence mixed with a lot of the things that I learned growing up, and also had some things that happened in religion where I was a part of a religion where it was really about making sure that you were humble. You didn't put yourself, you didn't really put yourself out there. And also around the age of 14, I ended up getting some negative attention around like kissing a boy and getting into some trouble. And I remember just thinking, okay, well, I need to stay small because we don't want negative attention. And that was such a negative thing that had happened that I remember just shrinking. And the idea around attention on me, it just became such a negative thing in my life that I felt a lot of anxiety. Well, fast forward into my 20s when I knew I wanted to do something big in the world. I don't know what that looked like. I have two extremely conflicting emotions in my body. So it's bad to be seen. It's not good to give yourself credit. It's not good to make money. It's, it's a negative, like I feel like I have these anxiety and panic attacks, yet I want to go be out front. And so it was like two worlds that were constantly fighting. I don't know if you've ever experienced that in your life, but it is like the fight of your entire life.
Yes.
So when you say, oh, you seem very powerful, I'm like, I have spent all of my 20s and most of my 30s trying to embrace who I am and knowing that I am powerful. Yes. So there's been so many things that I've done. So I can tell you that the first time I actually had that realization that I had that inner fight, I could feel it, but I couldn't put words to it until I believe it was 2013. I did this training with Jack Canfield. It was 3 weeks long throughout the year. They were a week chunk at a time. So for like, literally, it was like 7 days. They were kind of intensives. It was like 7 a.m. You could do things till like 11 at night. You could break. It ended at like 6, but you could break off with your groups and he gave us homework every night. So it was like very intensive for weeks long. And I remember it was probably the second time we had met, because the first meeting I was still kind of a little bit like hiding within these groups because I was pretty anxious. Like I was dealing with all of these emotions, knowing I want to do an event. I want to be a speaker. I want to write a book. I want to have a podcast. None of those things were happening yet. I had just started getting into the fitness world and I was on stage, but I wasn't using my words.
Wow.
So I wasn't speaking. So I was overcoming a lot of the physicalness, which still made me sick to my stomach and want to black out being on stage. But that was like the first playground of like learning to own my power just in my body. So if anybody's really, really nervous, there is physical things that you can start doing where you don't have to be speaking. You don't have to turn the microphone on right away. You can go physically start to feel powerful. And I do believe that that can help you start to even find your voice. So whether that's booking dance classes or, booking cycle classes or trying to sit in the front row at a cycle class, there's ways to start embodying your power. And for me, physicality was the first one because I couldn't even think of using my voice, Natalia. I was so afraid, especially because everything in the religion, you're just not supposed to say how you feel. And I felt very different about how I was raised. And so I was very afraid that I was going to be cast out by my family, cast out by my friends. So using my voice was like a no-no. So I was like, okay, how do I embrace it in my body first? So that was one of the big things about starting to learn to embrace my power. But back to the Jack Canfield event, he did an exercise where he was like, okay, so this is going to help you. He's explaining it on up on stage. And like, I'm like, oh, what are we going to do? This sounds fun. We're breaking off into these groups. He's like, this is going to really help you like embody whatever it is that you're kind of denying that you need to get over. And I'm like, I wonder what that even is. So we go into this writing exercise and he's like, what is the thing or the emotion that is like, that you need to own, that you've been kind of like denying yourself of, like something about yourself, but you're denying yourself and it's blocking you. And I was like, he's like, what is that statement? Like, what is the opposite statement that you need to embody? And I wrote down, I am powerful. And I remember even writing it. I was like, ooh, I'm shooketh. Like, I don't even want to say this out loud, because I think when I thought of powerful women, I think it scared people at the time. And I was like, people aren't going to like me. Like, if I even say this, like, oh, I know I'm really powerful. To even say that to you right now feels like, will she still like me? And does that seem like egotistical? And so I'm like, okay, I'll write this down. Little did I know that this statement is something I will have to be yelling in front of the room. And so he's like, okay, so you're going to, you're going to get in these groups of 3, and you are going to come up like on stage, and let's pretend it was you, Natalia, and Lindsay that I was in a group with. So you would each stand one on my right and one on my left. And you would repeat to me 3 times, Lori, you are powerful, in my ear. And then I would have to full on yell in front of the room and embody it, like literally feel it and scream it, I am powerful 3 times. Now, that's a little like embarrassing and uncomfortable, let alone when you actually, the words have so much meaning that they carry for you so deeply. So I remember when they, you get up there and you get on stage and you're doing this in front of 70 people. Like, my body was rejecting it so much. And I am not this girl. Like, I will do everything to not get attention on me. So the fact that I literally fell to my knees the first time I said it was like, that would have been my worst nightmare. Like, that was my worst nightmare, because it felt like I was trying to get attention, but my body was rejecting it so hard and saying it that I couldn't even do it. And I had to do it so many times. Like, we had to do it multiple times in order to like let it sink into my body. So powerful. The fact that you're like, oh, how do you have a powerful presence? I'm like, because I have worked on it so hard. And it was what I had to embody in order to like be the woman that you see and do the things that I want to be doing. And I think for women, that is one of the most, like, it's one of the biggest challenges, because I think when you think of a powerful woman, it's also like, well, do people like her?
Totally. And not to mention, I think what can happen so often is like you see someone in a powerful expression of self, and it's just like how I framed that question. It's like, have you always been like this? And it's actually such a remarkable reminder that you can build and create yourself from a place of intention. And okay, so speaking of power, you have had such a journey as an entrepreneur. And I first discovered you, I really think like, actually, you know what's wild? Back in 2020, I made a decision. So this is 5 years ago. And I was like, I am so done feeling so terrible in my body. So I love how you talked about that, about fitness. I do want to go back to that a little bit, but I was like, I'm so done feeling so insecure in my body and so like unsafe and ungrounded in my body and in my physique. And I found this trainer when I'd moved to Palm Springs, and she's like, do you know Lori Harder? And I was like, no. She goes, you need to listen to her podcast. Her name was Dulce, my trainer.
Oh,
that's
we
how
love
I found
Dulce.
you.
This is amazing.
Isn't that incredible? And then separately, I started listening to the pod, and then separately, I was doing a course with Catherine Zankina, and she talked about Chris. And it was the same kind of light up that I found like when I found you. And it was just like, and then I ended up doing Chris's mastermind, and that's how my whole world really opened. And
I love
through
that.
both of
and
you,
I remember
which is
Chris
so
was like,
beautiful.
Lori, there's this girl. She's so cool. Like, you're going to love her. I'm like, awesome. Let me meet her.
But I bring all of that to the fore only because like I've got to really watch you over the last like 5 years. And you've had a very powerful journey with entrepreneurship. And I love how open you've been with how challenging entrepreneurship can be. What do you feel like has been one of your power pivots in the last couple of years where you're just like, oh my God, either how did I get through that? Or how did that really help me become, again, power, I think, is going to be like our word of this podcast.
Oh, I love it.
Most powerful expression.
I need a reminder of it right now too. I mean, I think we always do, but okay. So I had a very big pivot let me back up. So I want to back up to, there was a place in my career where I had kind of reached all the check marks that I wanted to do in my life. Like I ticked things off the boxes, which is so surprising to me because a lot of them weren't even in there because I never thought that I was going to do even what I had done in my life because I did not graduate high school. I didn't have real high expectations for my life. Mind you, Chris and I lost our homes, our cars, and debt, all the things. So everything after that in my life feels like a little bit of a surprise, if I'm being honest. So with that said, there was a point around 2017, 2018, I had, done like these big live events for like 8 years with 500 women coming from all over the world. They were 3-day workshops. They were incredible. They were my life stream. And then also wrote a book, which I never thought that I would write a book, and did the whole book thing, went on, 8-city tour, became a bestseller. It was incredible. Went on a ton of huge podcasts. It was like all of these pinch me moments in my life were happening. And simultaneously, I had the realization that all of that stuff is awesome, but it was also like very, like the journey of writing a book is very lonely.
Yes.
And you do it in a very isolating way. You have to write alone. You can't really do it unless you're Krista. She did it with a girlfriend, but even the writing process is like very isolating. Putting on events was awesome, but I was putting them on alone. And there's a lot of planning that goes into that. And I wasn't like really in person that much with my team. I just felt really lonely. And I also felt like I wasn't as challenged as I was in the beginning, because after having an event for 8 years, we were locked and loaded. We were dialed in. Like I had all my content. My content was laid out. It's kind of like if you went to Tony Robbins, you're getting the same exact content. I started getting all of that really dialed in, and I loved it, but it wasn't super challenging anymore. And I think that people forget that to have a very fulfilling life, especially if I'm speaking for the builders and creators. This is not for everyone. I do think you need challenge to an extent, but I'm like a true builder and creator. I need to feel really challenged to feel fulfilled. And so I was feeling like, I don't think I want to write another book because I was really, really lonely. But I also want to feel very challenged in something, and I'm not feeling challenged in these courses and events that I'm doing anymore. And I also don't know if I want to be a course creator for the rest of my life. I also simultaneously, again, was feeling a little limited, if I'm being totally honest, because I was having conversations with my girlfriends that I realized we were limited in our conversation. Let me explain that. We had moved to LA, and I think we had been there a few years at this point. And Chris had started making friends with people who were way ahead of us. So we had friends who were ahead of us, but these were people who had sold their companies for hundreds of millions of dollars. Wow. And some of them were older, some of them were our age. And he started inviting me along to these dinners with these men. It was all men, no women. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go. Like, fuck it. Let's just go to these men's dinners and let's see what they're all talking about. I was intimidated because I'm like, I don't know what value I'm going to add to this conversation. So I started going to these dinners and listening to what they were saying about their companies or their, how they were structured, raising money, how they were, helping each other, the relationships. My brain was lit the fuck up. I was like, oh, I haven't felt this lit up since I can remember. I was like levitating. Do you know what I'm talking about?
100.
Because they were expanding me. I was like, there's so much here. There's so much to learn. What is this world?
And your soul is like, we're going this way.
My soul was like, that's where
this
we're going.
This is important.
Now, my soul simultaneously was like, how, why, and why is this choosing me? Because none of my girlfriends are having this conversation. So while that conversation is going on, I go and have conversations with my girlfriends who are feeling a little stuck. They're like, I can launch till the cows come home. I can share these things. I can podcast. Here's the cap of my income. Like there is, I don't want to say there's a cap, but there's a bit of a cap. I know the price range. Like I can look at people's careers and I can know around what you're making according to your team size, your launch. I can tell you what you're going to be making every year for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And now with the way things are rolling in the landscape and AI, like things are different. So with that said, I was like looking out to the future. Is this going to be where I want to be? Am I going to feel fulfilled? Is this what I want? And I also know that I am someone who's supposed to make a ton of money in this lifetime. I'm super clear on that. Like like I'm clear that I'm not even close to the amount of money that I'm supposed to make. I'm supposed to make it for certain reasons. Now, I was like, okay, I am not going to be able to do that in that particular world. And I want to feel really lit up again. So it was probably a couple weeks after having a few of those dinners where you're just always thinking as you're walking around in, your house or walking outside or going to workouts or whatever. I'm just constantly like, I feel like I'm always in a bit of like a moving, I don't even know, meditation, visualization, especially when you're in process. I was like, meaning I was in the process of like, what is next? And so I remember just walking around my house and I'm like, I fell to the ground again. I sound so dramatic, but I swear to God, these are the only two times.
Drama. You got your North Node in Leo, so this tracks, babe. Don't worry.
These are the only two. I swear this is not normal for me.
We're dropping to our knees and just praise it be. I get it.
But like, okay, I did have one other time. I'll share another time. But so I guess I am pretty dramatic.
Two mentions. We're with it.
It's a physical thing for me.
Yes.
Like I went down to the ground. Was it like making me fall over? No, but that's the emotion. I literally was like, I have to go down to the ground to almost like praise and be like, thank you for this idea or like what is coming. And it was a moment of, you have to do this. It wasn't like an anointing by something. It was like a choice of like, oh my God, I have to be the one to do this because I could see what it was going to do, like for women. And so even though, yes, it's about the company, it was also like, it really wasn't in that moment at all. It was like, you have to be the one to show women that there's not a cap, like there's not a ceiling, and that it doesn't matter what their skill set is, you can still do it. Because I had no skill set. So I actually think I think that that's the purpose and the gift is like, she didn't graduate high school, everyone. And she didn't have a network and her parents weren't rich and she lived in the Midwest. And so I think it's actually vital for me to have to do it. And I could see that path. I was like, oh no, it has to be somebody who just doesn't even like the person who's least nominated to do it needs to do it and bring it back. And so that was the first glimmer of you need to start a company of some sort, something that has the ability to exit for a lot of money. And so for me, I'm a consumer through and through. I'm a products junkie. I used to love just going in aisles of like Target, Whole Food, Erewhon. Like I love reading labels. I love looking at things, touching it, feeling it, trying it, talking about it. I love sharing it with women. I love the process. I love the process of a physical, tangible product. And so I went down this whole like realm of what should it be? Clothing, jewelry. I was like, all the things I loved, but then you look at like, oh, these are the uphill battles I have of all these things. And so I ended up settling on a company that first started as something called Light Pink. It was going to be a non-alcoholic rosé and then a light rosé wine spritzer. There were two reasons I was doing this. Number one, because I came from the fitness world. I also wanted something that was like a lighter version of a cocktail, and that wasn't really around at the time. And I was watching the spritzer category just start to take off. And I was like, okay, well, there's nothing for women. There's nothing female branded and there's nothing that's wine based. So could we be kind of like first to do that in this category that I think is going to be this huge emerging category? And everyone felt like it was a great idea. They all loved it. I had 3 questions on the back of the can that was all about connection. So it was like, how could we break into, I had just written a book on female friendships and connection. And I was like, how can I break into the mainstream with like helping women to also connect? What are they connecting over? They're connecting over wine. They're connecting at happy hours. So I felt like that served my life's purpose mixed with also the challenge of starting a products company because I wanted to be able to merge the two. Fast forward, I end up raising $2 million from 54 female investors. They all loved the idea. We start to move forward. The pandemic happens. Many, many things happened during that time. Also something called the candemic, where literally you couldn't even get what I needed to put my product in.
Oh my God.
Manufacturing, co-packing was all shutting down. So I'm spending money on trying to find these people. Prices are going up like drastically. Something called minimum order quantities are going up. So if you're a startup where you could have maybe started with a 10,000 can run, now they wanted, just to order the lids, they wanted you to have to place an order of 1 million. So these gold lids that I wanted for this can. And so I'm like, all of these things were happening that I couldn't get around, but you're still spending money trying to make it happen. You already have your team, you're spending money on team. Mm-hmm. So every month I'm watching this money go down and get spent. And I'm like, well, I don't want to run out of money on an idea that's never going to make it to market. So we end up hitting a wall that just, we can't get around it. And thank God. And I mean, you tell me that I'm going to hit a wall I can't get around, I literally wouldn't have believed you. I would have been like, no, I'm the fucking girl who's going to get around this wall. And there are some walls that are happening because you're just not supposed to get around them. So
how do you tell the difference? I don't want to derail because this is my favorite story, but really quick, how did you know the difference at the time?
No, I just kept
had to
hitting them.
trust.
There was no trust. There was no trust because I was so in it. Sometimes you get so in the eye of the storm that I forgot I was a spiritual person. I forgot God was I forgot that I believed in God. I forgot literally. I had a network. I forgot everything because everything just felt so stacked against me.
Yes,
that
so
I don't know what kind of external force came in, but honestly, like, I think sometimes like God intervenes, but we have to listen. And so what ended up happening is that it just became so many walls that there was just like a point where I was like, I don't know what else to do. Like, I think I just need to like get really vulnerable and ask anyone. And somehow someone was kind of like sent to me through my network, literally by the grace of God, because I started opening up. I think you have to let in a little bit of, not let in, you have to surrender. Like, I think I started to surrender and be like, somebody help me, God, universe, anyone listening? Because Natalia, I used to feel like I would get downloads all the time and felt so connected to God. And I'd go on a run and just be like, oh my God, these 5 ideas. And I know who I'm going to talk to. And I did this thing and miracles are happening. There was none of that. So I felt so deserted. And little did I know that like on this like macro journey, that's a part of it. Like, you're actually supposed to feel totally deserted in some points, and you're supposed to wonder if God is still there, and you're supposed to wonder if your unique like way of manifesting or whatever even works anymore. Because you need to be so flipped on your head, like in order to become the next version of you, that you almost like need to forget all the things.
Oh my God.
And so I was just like lost beyond. I was lost. And I think that I had to do things I had never done before. So I had to feel deserted. I was like, if things were just rolling and working, I would have never reached out to someone who had, you know, crazy clout and like was doing these incredibly big things. And I would have never revealed my soul and how vulnerable I felt and how bad I felt like I was doing if I wouldn't have been at rock bottom in that particular journey. And so those are the things that I learned from that, is like, you have to get really, really vulnerable and allow yourself to be like, is this it? Is this a viable business idea anymore? Who could I reach out to? Who could help me? Okay, they're not in my network yet. I'm going to have to get really uncomfortable. So to your question, how do you know? You don't necessarily know. It's just like, if things are not moving anymore, what is something you know you need to do that you're avoiding? Who do you need to talk to that you're afraid to talk to, who might have your answer or might shed some light on something? So if you're stuck in something, it's probably because you're also avoiding something that you have to do in order to break through. So I think asking those really hard questions of, what do you know you're supposed to be doing that you're avoiding right now? And that's what I was avoiding. I was avoiding finding the people who could help me because I felt embarrassed. I felt really embarrassed. Like, look at, you know, I've spent this money. I can't believe I didn't, you know, ask about these things first. Yeah, it was a really embarrassing, like, vulnerable point in my life. And I was avoiding that feeling.
How did you, I don't know what we're going to call this. Do we call it courage? Do we call it heart? Do we call it humility? Like, how did you get up, like, the guts to have to be like, hey, we're doing something else. This is not going to move in the direction of the vision and of what I wanted. Like, what was that process like for you?
People.
Really?
You have to have people.
Yes.
And if you don't have, I didn't have them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have the the people necessarily yet. They were in my network, but they were like one person removed.
Yes.
So I believe everyone that you need is in your network. They're just maybe one or two people removed. And so, I think courage comes in the form of borrowing others' stories, and you don't get that courage until you get to meet the person whose story you're about to borrow. And so for me, it wasn't until I ended up asking my husband to connect me to one of his friends who I knew had raised a bunch of money. And then I heard that his journey was kind of brutal at some points. And so I ended up asking him if I could meet, if we could all go to dinner and have a conversation. And I was like, this is where I'm at. This was just one of the many conversations that I had, this exact same conversation. I was like, hey, this is where I'm at in my business. Like, I don't know what to do. I spent $1 million. I have $1 million left. I have these female investors. I feel like I can't disappoint them. I feel like my tail's between my legs right now. I'm embarrassed. These are mentors that I look up to. Some of these women are celebrities. Some of these are my best friends. This is like, I put essentially every woman I looked up to and adored into this group of women who had given me money. And my biggest life fear was disappointing people. So sometimes when your biggest life fear is disappointing people, you create the perfect scenario for you to disappoint the shit out of anyone you've ever cared about or opinions whose matter.
Yes.
And you do it for you. Now, did that feel like it was for me? No, it felt like my worst nightmare, to the point where, Natalia, it was like so bad that because I didn't know that this is a normal thing to happen, because I wasn't having these conversations. Yeah. My girlfriends weren't having these conversations. A lot of the investors were first-time investors, so they had very high expectations or didn't understand what these first years of business looked like. So the pressure was so intense that I remember just waking up in the middle of the night and being like, I don't even know if I want to wake up tomorrow. Like, I can't handle another day of feeling this pressure. Like, it was so much pressure of like the weight of women's money. And, I had made up every story of what people were thinking about me. Majority of them were not thinking that at all. A couple were, and that's fine. And is it fine? Was that the worst journey of my life? Yes. But also it's like, you're making up all these stories and you're carrying them around. So back to the original question of how did you get through? I go to that dinner, and the first conversation is like, I tell him about what's happening, and he's like, okay, well, pivot. Like, what's the next idea? Like,
oh
what?
My God.
I'm like, what do you mean?
Wow.
And he's like, yeah, so let me name these 10 companies who started as something else, who pivot in the interim, and you tell your investors you have this better idea because this one isn't working. Clearly, Lori, you should have pivoted 3 months ago. And I'm not even sure what you're doing with this non-alc and alcohol company, because you're such a health person. Like, pivot into something with health for your audience who is obsessed with health and wellness. And like, look at you, you're health and wellness. What do you love? I'm like, okay, got it. He took something that was like the weight of the world and was like, yeah, this is normal. Here's the 10 companies right now that I know are pivoting. My company pivoted 3 times. Here's, not 10, hundreds and thousands of companies are pivoting. And let me just tell you, they should, like, many companies should be pivoting right now into something else or adding something else. And he made something that seemed so big, he made it tiny. Oh. So he took this massive problem and this massive fear, and he made it like a little cookie crumb. And so quickly through that experience, I talked to more and more people, and that's exactly what they did. They took this immense problem and they just made it tiny. And I'm like, oh, these are small things in this circle. When you're in the wrong circles, what happens is small things are big things.
Yes.
When you're in the right circles, they take these very big things and they make them small things so that you can move through them faster. And that's why when you see these circles of people who get together who are really powerful, like, they just keep doing big, powerful things, because they're having these conversations and they're making these problems smaller. They're shrinking them by not making them a big deal or helping connect with the answers that they need. And so conversation, it was one conversation at a time that allowed me to really move through that in such a, maybe it looked graceful to the outer world, but it was pretty tumultuous internally. Yeah. But they helped me handle it externally with so much grace and navigate it. Like, I would have never been able to navigate that. I would have never known how to write that investor letter to break that news. I would have never known how to take that pivot, and instead of making it look like a failure, like, make it something that people were like, that was the most amazing pivot that brought so much attention in a positive way to the next thing. That was all because the people who had done it before me.
I mean, I want to touch on something that just is so powerful to me. Really, the idea of you're working with these women that you admire and love, and you're working with their money.
Mm-hmm.
There's pressure there. But then in addition, like you said, a lot of them are first time investors.
Mm-hmm.
So the expectations, because the conversations aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
And how incredible, number one, like for them to have the experience with you, even though I know it sounds very tough,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like how magnificent that it just took one conversation from someone who'd had the experience to
Mm-hmm.
give you the context that this was not a big deal and you could evolve it and change it, instead of like, because I remember hearing you on Lindsay's podcast when you talked about this process. And I just was thinking like, God, I know those nights where you wake up and you're just like, yeah, you kind of want to die because it's so hard, but to like make it through and to still be playing on such a big level, it's just speaks such volumes. Like, and I just want to speak into this. So your North Node is in Leo in the 10th house. And I don't know if you remember this when I read your chart, but I said, I literally told you, I go, Laura, you are here to like birth businesses. Like you are here to be an entrepreneur and you're here to be seen in a really, really big way and to hold power, because Leo is very powerful, but it's heart-led power. So it's like, what do I want to do in the direction of like what fills my heart and actually really speaks to me and feels authentic? And I feel like with glōci, you've so done that, but it's powerful that your North Node is literally the space that will make you, please forgive the term, my loves, but it's like, will make you shit your pants because you have to play big and you are doing things that you've never done before. And this is from like the soul perspective. So as you're explaining this story, and I've heard this before, I'm like, oh my God, I just always see your North Node in the 10th house of business. So
interesting. I forgot about that.
And the 10th house of being seen. And it's just like, you are really traversing up that mountain and you're very, very far along and you're really embodying it. And that's why it's so fulfilling, but it's not easy. It is not easy.
Every day is not easy. So I think my journey right now is really like knowing that that's the path. I'm in full acceptance that is like the path that I chose and that I have to be on in order to feel fulfilled. Because if I didn't like embody what I just said, like I have to choose it every day. I have to know I'm choosing it, because otherwise it's like a constant fight of why is this always hard? Why is this always hard?
Yeah.
But it makes like the good times so juicy. Like I can't even explain it. Like I feel like my ability to experience like joy and richness is super deep because things are always hard.
Yeah.
You know,
because you push the envelope. Like you are such an embodiment of someone who takes risk and who lives in the edge of challenge. And I think it's an important reminder because it can be so easy to want to be in ease. And I feel like that's definitely real for me. But when you move through challenge and you see you can do it, life is rich on another level. And it's like really the invitation to not avoid the challenge, like to not avoid it. So can you tell us a little bit about like, what has it been like to build and launch and pivot with your investors and just go into this whole new venture with glōci?
I mean, it's been really exciting because it feels really aligned for me. I would say that the pivot was extremely challenging because what happens with a pivot is just that you're having to come out with something super solid and exciting behind the scenes that you can't share yet. Like imagine kind of like closing down one idea and needing to get excited and build another idea and put that out to the world. But that's messy in the interim of it while trying to like show up really powerfully and as a leader. Like, while like I want people to picture whatever they're doing right now and leaping into something they don't know what it is yet, but having to still be like front facing and tell people what the journey is and teach about it along the way and make sure that they still feel like a part of it and they understand it. And you're like, I don't understand it yet. So there's a whole lot of, and I hate to even say this, I don't know another way to explain it. Like there's a whole lot of like almost like faking this like leadership or like you're just trying to embody feeling like a leader when you actually still feel like a little bit of a failure.
Yes.
So that was like a serious dance for me. That one was challenging. And the only thing that got me through it was being able to have my absolute breakdown friends where I could just crumble and be like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, here's what I really want to write to these investors. Like, I don't know how this is going to go. Like, I don't know. And like, I'm trying to create a product that has a bit of white space that's new, while also not having to educate people so much that it doesn't go over, you know? And it was a sweet spot of like, what is this next idea? And it felt a little bit of pressure around it too. So that was really interesting to navigate around. But again, people are the only thing that helped me with that. But bringing glōci out into the world, once I got really rooted in what it was, and it took a while for me to get really grounded in what glōci was, because it started as like, okay, well, I'm in the, you know, my whole background was in wellness and health and supplements. And I loved, you know, supplements and all the things, wellness shakes. I was a huge shake girl and taking my vitamins and all the things. But when I started this company, when it started as Light Pink and was turning into glōci, I was so stressed out and so busy. My life flipped like drastically. I thought I was busy before. And now I'm like, oh, now I understand what people are talking about. Like really busy people.
Literally.
That the first thing that went was my supplements and my health routine. And so I was like, the only thing that I had kept doing in my supplement routine, which is crazy because I was a supplement girly, like I sold them. That's what I did to make millions of dollars. And I loved them, like swore by them. And so I woke up one day, wasn't taking them. The only thing in my supplement routine that I was still taking, I would take my shakes because I just ate that for lunch, but was hydration sticks. And I'm like, because I was just like, okay, at the core, Lori, drink your water. Like I would literally just be like, if you don't do anything else for yourself, like drink your water, get some electrolytes. And so one day I was like drinking these hydration sticks and I looked down and I was like, why doesn't this do more for me? Like, why is this only full of expensive salt and sugar? Like I'm actually paying a decent amount. It was like $49 a box or something for like some electrolyte, salt and sugar. And I was like, God, this is such an easy routine. And I can't actually believe this is the one I stuck to because it is so easy. And I know people at the core, the one thing they know they should be doing is drinking water. And when you're thinking of a product, because, you know, I was thinking of products, I'm like, you want to think of it in terms of something that people can either consume or use every single day. And it's something that you could also put on subscription. This is what I had learned.
Smart. I know I wanted to ask you about that.
This is one huge thing that I learned in my journey of products, you guys, is you want it something to be consumable or usable every single day and you can put on subscription. Because let me just tell you, the journey to getting one customer of something that they don't use again, which is also a huge reason why I didn't want to do jewelry or clothing, even though I was obsessed with it, is because I'm not ordering a necklace every month. You know, literally just like maybe that's a one-time shop or a one-time buy. So having to eternally go out and get new customers is much harder than going back to the well over and over and over again to these people who love your product. And so these were the guidelines in which I was creating glōci. And so I'm looking at these hydration sticks. Number one, it wasn't a habit I had to teach people to do necessarily. Some people maybe, but it was a habit that was already adopted. It was like, okay, we're already using hydration sticks. We understand the form. They're easy. It's something, you know, it's basic. Everyone is doing it, whether you are just somebody who, you know, isn't even into wellness, but you know, you want to be like hydrated, or you're like a total wellness girly and you know, you're flavoring your water because you want to drink more water or you're wanting to get your electrolytes. So I was like, okay, habit is there. Habit's already created. And then the idea of people, you know, trying to make sure that they wanted to drink water was huge, but then also this ease idea. And I was like, okay, what if we could create something that this was the one thing that if they only did one good thing for themselves a day, this could be it. I was like, what would we have in here? Not what would we have in here as men and women in the whole world? What would we have in here as women in the demographic that I want to reach? So I started thinking about the demographic I wanted to reach. I wanted to reach, you know, women in their like 20s to 50s. And up, of course anything can fall in between there, but that was really like this sweet spot. I love women like in their 20s up to 50s because they're just like, they're building their life. They're excited about things. I wanted that demographic of people who were starting to be interested in health and wellness, or who were really interested in health and wellness. And so I was like, what are these women doing? What are they into? Okay, well, one thing I know about women is they want to look good, and they're lying if they say they don't. They're lying. Like, I don't know a woman who's like, no, I'm good. I'm so confident, but I don't mind if I, don't have great skin, and I don't mind if I don't feel good about how I look. No, I don't care who you are. You want to present as like, you want to feel good. You want glowing skin. You want to present the best version of you that you possibly can. And you want to feel really good in the build. You want to feel really good while you're chasing down your dreams or whatever it is that you're doing. And so I was like, okay, what could we do that could make them feel like they looked good? Well, hydrating is an easy thing. That already helps women look good. How could we enhance hydrating? Like, what could we do to make their skin look amazing? And then it was feel good. And we surveyed a ton of women. I got to actually go in, it's kind of a crazy story. My now co-founder, Natalie Ellis, I got to go in her group because she was an early investor in Light Pink. And I asked her, hey, can I survey your group? Because you have a huge women's group. Outside of my group, I want to survey your demographic as well. And I want to ask them, like, what are the things they would look for in this particular supplement? We gave them like a multiple choice. And I think the top one was feel lighter. Like, they wanted to feel lighter. So then we had to navigate, what does feel lighter mean? Feel lighter meant better digestion, going to the bathroom regularly, and not feeling bloated. So that
sounds
became
about right.
Exactly. That's exactly what Natalie and I wanted. That's exactly what these, all my groups of friends wanted. When I would sit and talk to Lindsay or, different girlfriends, they'd be like, okay, well, I want to feel, I remember one of my girlfriends who traveled all the time, Jen Gottlieb, she's like, okay, well, I travel all the time. I want to be able to poop. Like, I want to be able to feel good. When I go on stage, I want to like fit in my clothes and feel like I look really good. And that's like bloating, digestion, all the things. So I'm like, all right, we've got skin, we've got bloat, we've got digestion. We can't do too many things because number one, money. If you want to actually make an impact with ingredients, you can't be spending so much money. Believe me, I would have wanted the stick to do everything. I actually thought of creating something called the Wonder Stick. And I was like, okay, but like, I can't afford the ingredients to put enough in there that could make a difference. So we have to pick like, what are our three things? It's a smart
reminder, like as an entrepreneur, because it's like, yeah, you have your vision and the things you want, but then especially with product, it's like, okay, but let's also work within so you have a good margin.
Even with coaching, even with
grow.
Things that start, even with your podcast, like,
yes,
you can talk about everything, or you can like really talk about what's hot for you right now, what you're excited about, like kind of trying to hone in on a few things
100%
will make you feel better.
Yes.
And so it did make me feel better with messaging, because core messaging for glōci, like as much as it does, we really try to hone in only on a few things, because even though important. The ingredients that we chose do all of the things that I said, bloating, skin, gut, digestion, they also do a million other things, because we have zinc, we have magnesium, we have electrolytes, and you can't focus on all of the messaging all at once. You actually confuse people. It gets lost, and they get trust issues, believe it or not. Because they're like, you can't do all of it. And so when you're thinking of your business, I hope throughout this podcast, even if you're not thinking of a product, you think of it in terms of your business. Like, you can't do all of it.
No. And even if you can, it's like, even if you can, air quotes, it's like, I love that. I just think that's like chef's kiss. That's taken me so long to figure out. Like, you can't,
trust me, I get it,
freaking talk about everything. And you can't be like, and we do this and it does this. And hey, I do this. It's lliterally like, you have to hone so that, and I learned this from Donald Miller. He's like, people should be able to repeat your messaging. These are not the exact words, but they should be able to repeat it back to you. And that's what I was thinking. And I was telling you about one of my best friends, Twa, and I was talking to her last night, and I was like, I'm going to see Lori tomorrow. I was like, I'm getting my glōci subscription soon. I'm excited. She goes, Natalia, I do not travel without it. And she said about the bathroom piece.
I love that. Oh
so
my
it's
gosh.
Just like, I just feel like it's such a good reminder for entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs. And I know a lot of my babes are super right brain, very creative. And you just got to remember, you can't do it all. You have to hone in.
And you earn the right to be able to do more later, for sure.
Totally.
But it's really good guardrails even for yourself, or you can get really like you can get really confused, and you also don't get to like go really deep on certain things. So that's really how glōci was like born and created in the shift. So I'm super excited about it. I love it. It feels so aligned with who I am and where I'm at and what I get to do. I think the parts I'm most excited about are like the build with the people. Even in my company, we're super small right now. Like I have 2 internal employees, and we do a lot of like fractionals, and we do some agency here and there. But like I'm obsessed with my small team, like obsessed. It's like, oh, I've always dreamt of getting to work with women like this and like having so much fun. We also get to like dream and hope, and we're also in the beginning phases where we get to be a little naive of like what this could be without, you know, too much outside information.
Yes.
And it's so exciting. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's so incredible to watch. And so this is going to be maybe my second to last question, but I've been thinking about this with myself lately, and you've definitely also, again, been like a North Star for me with this. But like I mentioned, really even how I found you is through one of my first trainers. And I was thinking about how so many years later, finally arriving to a place with my health and my fitness, and it's taken this method, and it's taken ups and downs and like yeses and nos and like F ups and wisdom along the way, to get to a place with my body where like I feel really healthy, I feel really vital, I feel like I look amazing, I feel amazing. I think entrepreneurship is the same. What do you think about the methodology that it takes to care for your health and the methodology that it takes to like build a business?
I think they run super parallel to each other.
And yeah, what are your thoughts? I'm curious about this.
I think that I understand entrepreneurship, and I've been able to do what I do because I started in fitness, and I think my brain works that way. So I don't necessarily think you have to go on a massive fitness journey, but I think it helps.
Totally.
I think going on a health and wellness journey helps because
being your healthiest version, knowing how to care for yourself.
I think the fundamentals that it teaches are that you are going to be doing a whole lot of work.
Yes.
Meaning you could be, okay, let's talk about the beginning of my health journey. I learned how to exercise first. I didn't learn how to eat first.
Yeah.
I was doing everything wrong with eating, but I was doing something very foundational that I didn't realize was like changing the game for the structure. So I was like laying the foundation, first of all. And you can be completely effing up massive parts of your business, but also dominating certain parts, and you're still going to be okay. Like there are, when I think of business, like there's eternally multiple fires going on no matter what. But if you have a couple things that are going great, that's also going to be just fine because you can only take one fire at a time. And there's always going to be fires. So when I think about what I was doing, I was lifting and working out and learning weights and learning the foundation and gaining all this strength. But what was happening in my head is I was so frustrated because I wasn't seeing results. So I was disregarding all that was actually happening in my body. And what was happening is that I was laying this incredible, insane, amazing foundation of muscle, of discipline, of showing up even when you don't see results, of showing up daily even when you're like, you feel like all hope is lost and that you may never actually get to see your results. But I had started, I had created that discipline muscle and it became who I was. So all of a sudden, what happens is if you're building that business, you're building that foundation, you may not even see money coming in. You may be like, this is like, is this even going to be something that works? Now, what happens is now that you have that foundation and that habit and that discipline, whatever it is in your business or whether it's in your health journey, what happens is when you start making these other small adjustments, you actually start seeing things like, oh my God, I had no idea that, you know, when I started pulling out sugar or doing these carb rotations, which I don't suggest, you know, the way that I did it. But I will tell you, like, when I started really understanding nutrition, it started revealing all of the hard work I did. And I got so grateful, because if I would have only lost weight first, it would have been like on a body that didn't have muscle and didn't have tone and didn't have what I actually wanted in my head. And so I would say with fitness, the biggest things is that it's teaching you discipline. It's teaching you to keep going even when you don't see results, because there's going to be years in your business where you don't see results. There's going to be years where you actually go backwards. And there have been so many years where, because, I was in the fitness world. So like fitness, for people who don't know, like fitness magazine covers, that was the world I came from, fitness modeling. There's months or years where I've put on a bunch of weight, but I still went to the gym. And I'm like, this is not a fun year. Like, I'm up in weight. I'm not comfortable. I feel like very uncomfortable in my skin. But what happens is, like, when you dial it in or you get your life back in order, all of a sudden, like, maybe you end up losing that weight, and you still have this like structure of this very powerful body and a body that you love. And so I think that throughout, your career and throughout your life, if you can keep some of those like habits, they're the things that are going to keep you from stopping. So I just think the discipline habit of showing up when you don't get a result is what fitness really taught me.
Oh, I love that so much, because I feel like a conversation that comes up a lot with my gals is like, when you're so in the process, whether it's with their finances or their journey with entrepreneurship or a career shift, or just holding a vision of something they so deeply desire and it's not there yet, and you feel lost and you feel, and going back to the first thing we talked about around motivation, and you're trying to rely on motivation and it's just not there. It's like you fall back on like your discipline and your habits.
I have to share the other big thing that was actually really profound about fitness that I had the realization of is, with the gym, you show up to the gym and you look at all the weights, and you could either go into the gym with this idea of these weights are hard and they're heavy, and like, why, I don't want to have to lift heavier weights. I don't want to have to break down my muscle and actually tear it in order to build it back up. When we think about that, when we think about how a muscle is actually made, you actually destroy it. Like, you break it down, you tear the fibers, and it's in pain. It's inflamed. It's actually like somewhat of a negative thing. Like, it could be perceived as a negative thing, because you're going in and you're tearing it down, and you're trying to put a load on it that you actually can't handle or maintain. So I want you to think about that in business.
Wow, that is
in order to grow.
To think about.
In order to grow in your business, you actually have to put a load on yourself that you can't handle or maintain. So we just do it in fitness. We do it in a somewhat controlled environment. And when you think about business, you just have to view it that way. Like, okay, this is a somewhat controlled environment. Have your trainer, AKA your mentors. They're not going to let you kill yourself, but they are going to let you fully break down. They are going to let you fully feel completely overwhelmed and like you're screwing up and like you're messing something up, or you're, like I said, breaking down. And so that environment is literally, that is what you're going for. You're trying to overload yourself and you're trying to break down in order to build that muscle and in order to expand. And so you can either look at the weights, AKA the problems that are coming every day, as something really fucking annoying and horrible and challenging. And why did I get this customer service email? And why is my assistant doing this? And why is this person quitting? And why are they talking about me behind my back? And why did this person, sign a contract, but they're not paying? And why does this person have a bad idea of me or misunderstanding me? Or you can look at it as the dumbbells and say, okay, you can either lift it and use it and let it break you down to build you back up. Or you could go to the gym and want the body, but get pissed off at the weights. That's the same. It's the same analogy of getting pissed off at your problems. They're literally the way to break you down and build you up. Yeah. But you're looking at them and it'd be like going to the gym and yelling at the barbell. Like, literally. I'm so mad at you for being heavy.
Darn it. That's so genius. That's your Sagittarius right there. Just like give us the best like parable of all time. Or I don't even know the word to use. Lori, to close up this incredible conversation, what would be like a message of like motivation or inspiration to perhaps like a woman in my community who's just like, I want to make bigger moves. I want to create the life I envision. I want to have the impact. I want to do the things, but I just feel so stuck right now.
I would go put yourself in the rooms and make friends with the people who are moving and make it a natural thing to not be stuck, who help you get unstuck. Because there's no way if I did this alone, so when I go and try to do things alone or without reaching out to friends, I get stuck. It's the natural thing that happens when you're not building with people or using people.
Yeah.
But the key is that you have to use them. You have to reach out to them. You have to get in the rooms. You have to find the people. You have to get the mentors. So you have to help yourself first in order to get unstuck. And I think it's the hardest realization is no one's going to come and save you and get you unstuck. You have to make those relationships. Then they can help in a major way. But even with all the relationships that I have, I would be stuck if I don't reach out. Yeah. So it is my new habit to always be reaching out, letting people know where I'm at, how I'm doing, what I need help with, or I'd be stuck.
Yes. Where can my angels connect with you? Where can they get glōci and just follow along with just your incredible. It's funny. I actually looked at one of my questions, which intuitively, thank God, I basically got to it. But I said, you are so powerful. That is literally what I said in the question to preface the question. So where can my babes connect with your power? Just like I do on the daily.
Everything. I mean, Earn Your Happy on the podcast, which you're coming on, which I'm very excited about. glōci is getglōci, GETGLOCI.com. And I think we have a coupon code for you.
Oh, nice.
Do you know what your coupon code is?
No.
Okay, well, what do you want to make it?
Let's make it NB10.
NB10.
Yeah, like Natalia Benson. My girls call me NB, so NB10 is
we'll
perfect.
Do NB10, and that is 15% off. Okay, great.
Yeah, confirmed.
NB10. Confirmed. 15% off for your listeners to go and try it out. And guys, truly, it is like, if you only did one thing for yourself, do this. It is incredible. The ingredients are awesome. It is like, I mean, it's next level for your skin and your gut and bloat and all the things. So I hope that it serves your community and that they love it and it tastes freaking amazing.
Oh my God. We love. Lori, thank you for this conversation. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. Like,
this was so fun.
This is goals cubed. I'm so excited.
This was my goals coming on your podcast.
Thank you, angels. Love you guys. Bye-bye.